It's the 9th of October and it's time for the 9th film in my 31 Horrors of Mike. If you're new to this YouTube channel, well, first of all, hello, my name's Mike, nice to meet you. And second of all, 31 Horrors of Mike, you're probably wondering what that is. You're probably thinking, what could the 31 Horrors of Mike possibly be? Well, it means that I review a horror movie for each day of October leading up to Halloween, which is my favourite time of the year. Yes, I am a geek, a horror geek, but I just love it, and I just love Halloween. I just always have since I was a kid, and I just have never really grown out of it. So I like to talk about films or horror films, you know, with a large scope for films which are contemporary, which have been recently made, but also going back to things done in the silent era as well. And I also like to take films which are well known and mix them up with films which are not so well known. And sometimes I'll even take a film which many of you don't like, and I'll say why I think that it should be given a second chance. So that's really what the 31 Horrors of Mike is, if you're wondering. Anyway, today's review is the 1978 film Martin. It was directed by George Romero, who gave us films like Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. He really gave birth to the modern zombie era. Martin is a vampire tale, but it's one unlike any that I've seen before or since. I wasn't alive before 1978, doesn't really make sense. Never mind, I'll continue. And the film revolves around a character called Martin, spooky title. Sorry if my brother's watching this, his name's Martin and I apologise. And we follow this character who believes very much that he is a vampire. And we actually see him supposedly killing young women and drinking their blood, but he's sort of doing it in a very sort of unorthodox way. It's not really very vampirish. Am I making up words? Vampirish? Is that a cross between a vampire and an Irishman? I don't really know. But we see him carrying out and causing these horrible deaths of these young women. But it's kind of unclear as to whether he really is a vampire or not. And he eventually, it's as if he's on the run, or he wants to confront what he is in some way, and he goes to stay with a member of his family who's quite old and comes from the old country. I don't know why I did this. And he believes that Martin is a vampire, and he also believes in the old world ways, which is that, yeah, I'll use garlic, a crucifix, holy water against you. And he says to Martin, look, where you're staying in this town, where you're under my roof, none of that vampiristic stuff, alright? No killing people, no doing anything like that, no vampire shenanigans, whatever that involves. And Martin agrees to this, so he gets a normal job, he tries to go about his daily business, and he ends up also phoning a radio show where he talks each night about what it's like to be a vampire, and the radio DJ just simply refers to him as the Count. So it's kind of a little bit of an oddball movie. It's a strange approach to the vampire myth. I don't really want to tell, sort of speak any more about what happens in the plot, because I think that would be spoiling things. But certainly it's a film which takes a novel approach, and what's great about it is it's very much open to interpretation. We get to see flashbacks throughout the film of Martin being in this sort of almost like a classic Universal Dracula movie or something like that, or we get to see, it's like black and white shots of him supposedly hundreds of years ago as a vampire, and it's really up to you whether you interpret that as that, yeah, he is a real vampire and he's been around for that amount of time, or if he's just a really mixed up adolescent or a mixed up teenager. And that's the thing, that's really what the film's about. Even if you do believe that this character is a vampire, it's very much about how teenagers adapt to the life of being a grown-up, adapt to going through the day-to-day grind, and that some people unfortunately don't adapt to that, and some people also just crack and go right off the deep end. And that's really, to me, what the film's about. But I'd be interested to see what any of you think of it. It's certainly a film where I think the performances are good, they're quirky, it's quite funny in places, but it's a really enthralling watch, and I can't believe so few people know about this movie. It's one which really, I mean, I put this movie up there with like Dawn of the Dead I'll put it up with anything that Romero's made. And I think it is really sad because you watch a film like this and you think, you know, Romero went through a patch where he made a few films which were not zombie orientated. A lot of the time that was because maybe he couldn't really get work, but he made some really great non-zombie films like Creepshow, which is one of my favourite anthology horror films. But Martin, I think, is just so strong. It's so open to interpretation, it's fun, and it's, like I say, it's a really unique take on the not just the vampire mythos, but also just in the horror genre in general. And I think it's a real shame that we've not seen more of that from Romero, and he's just went back to really constantly flogging a dead zombie, if that makes sense. So, but I would definitely recommend this. It's highly recommended. It's a shame, really, because there was an original cut of the film which was shot, well, not shot, but at least it was processed entirely in black and white, and it was like nearly 3 hours long, and it was supposedly a very different film, and that film no longer exists. There's no print of it in existence as far as we know, and I think that's a bit of a shame. But the version that we do have is really great. It's one of the best. I mean, it is a B movie. Romero worked within that environment, you know. It's like when you watch the original Dawn of the Dead, there's much of it which is cheesy, there's much of it which is problematic, but you let it slip because it's a B movie. Just like Night of the Living Dead as well, you know, there's problems with that film as well, but you're more sympathetic towards that than when you're watching a Hollywood film which cost $100 million to make, you know. Then you're not so sympathetic towards some of the mistakes which are made there. So if B movies are not really your thing, then you might find it a little hokey, but I really, really would recommend it. So that is Martin. I will be back tomorrow with another horror review, and that's about it. I need to go over here now and switch you all off. I feel it's like life support or something, and I've just burnt my finger on a lamp. Always know how to end well. Bye for now.